Ghislaine Maxwell has been a tireless advocate for the oceans, and I'm really thrilled to have an opportunity to introduce her to my friends here at the United Nations. Would you say a few words for us, please?
First of all, I'm absolutely honored and thrilled to be here at the United Nations, because where better to have a discussion about the 3/4 of our planet than here? Because without you, the 3/4 of the planet does not have a voice, does not have a seat at the table, and nothing can happen without you. So, as I say, there's absolutely nowhere better to have this conversation. And I do believe, as recently as last year, the world leaders at the UN, at the Rio conference, affirmed that oceans are the essential component of the Earth's ecosystem and an important contributor to poverty eradication, sustained economic growth, and food security. And all of these issues are central to the work that you do here at the United Nations. At the same conference, you also committed to protect and restore the health and productivity and resilience of the oceans. So I think that this is the conversation that we need to have, because without the blue heart of our planet, I personally am not sure what else there is that can make such a big single contribution to all the issues that plague us, from climate change, food security, and so we need to focus on that so that we can all give a voice to that part that's so important. And the part that I play here is to gather a group from normal citizens from all around the world so that they can come together and lend a voice that will help you pass the laws that need to be passed and make the difficult decisions that need to be made. And it will make that a little bit easier because you'll have a community behind you pushing for it. We're sitting here in the UN Trusteeship Council, and the ocean needs trustees that can nurture the future of the oceans and their health, productivity and resilience. And the SDGs, I think, are a really fantastic opportunity to rally citizens globally as protectors of the oceans and to help empower you to make the difficult decisions, to make the changes that need to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. The man to see at the United Nations is Amir Dassal. He knows everything about the place.
And therefore, I invite my dear friend, Ghislaine Maxwell, to tell us how we can own the oceans. You have 3 seconds. Thank you. Please.
I'll do my best. First of all, Your Excellencies, Presidents, Lords, ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to thank you so much, and it's such an honor to be here. I'm here representing civil society. My passion for the ocean, for those of you, there's a slideshow going up there, so you don't just have to hear me, you can see the pictures as well. Started when I was a little girl. I grew up watching Jacques Cousteau on TV and became mesmerized with the oceans. It led to me becoming a deep worker submersible pilot. And ultimately, on one of my first dives, when I went down expecting to see a fish, I switched on the lights at the bottom of the ocean and saw a plastic hanger. It was in that moment, actually, that I decided that I really wanted to focus my attention on the ocean. And the area of the ocean that I chose to focus on was the high seas, which we've discussed so much here today. But for those of you who don't know, it represents 45% of our planet. And by the way, that 45% of the planet belongs to each and every one of you here, because it is our global commons. Under UNCLOS, it is ours. It belongs to each and every one of us, and the assets belong to us too. And I didn't know that when I started the history. The history of this started in 533 AD under Emperor Justinius, whips through the Magna Carta. Of course, I have to give a nod to England, and then ends up in 1982 at the Law of the Sea Convention. This area, our commons, are under peril for many reasons. One of the areas that of interest that I'm sure many of you are aware of is the shrinking ice of the Arctic. This is an Arctic map, and you can see the little white bits, which are the high seas areas that will remain. The ice is melting, the Northern Passage is opening. This will just be one of the areas that need to be discussed and focused on in the time to come. What's the point of why should we really care about the ocean? So 90 million tons of fish caught a year, and about a third of the fish harvested are used to feed livestock. What that means is we're feeding that to our chickens so that they can taste more like fish. Unsustainable fishing practices, this is just an example of that, we're so clever as a species that we have advances in extractive technologies. This is a sort of map, or picture, if you will, of one of the largest fishing nets in the world that can contain 12 Boeing 747s, which is pretty big. The World Bank quotes, poor ocean management leads to approximately $50 billion in lost revenue annually. This is the actual tuna that was sold last year for $1.7 million. And I want to come to Palau, actually. As Karen said, 100 million sharks are taken out of the ocean, have their fins cut off, and for fin soup thrown back alive into the ocean to die. And Palau, very brilliantly, closed their waters to shark finning and ultimately shark finning soup, and turned what was worth about $200 per fin into something worth $1.9 million over their lifetime, as the president said so rightly, through tourism. I raise this again because it's absolutely vital that the combination between the use of our oceans, not only for the various reasons that both David Miliband said and Karen and others, for the oxygen and the food, but also there has to be a link between industry and the people and the use of our planet, so that all these things combine together to make a sustainable ocean, because without money at the bottom and without it's not going to work. So I started the Terramar Project, and the point of the Terramar Project is to connect each and every one of us to our global oceans, to the high seas, because it does belong to you. We give you a passport, a daily online newspaper, an education platform, a government structure, and a way to connect to your oceans as you never have been able to before. Fish do not vote, but we do. And if we do, and we tell our politicians that we want the oceans to become sustainable, then the goal is to have every politician end up with a policy framework and a decision on how they treat the oceans, and hopefully that will be sustainable, because that is what we, the people, want. A sustainable development goal at the UN is, I think, a fantastic thing. The United Nations is absolutely the right place to lead this. They are the only place that has this global reach. All the people can come together to create this goal that will then be the planetary mandate for the next 15 years of how we treat our oceans. So I really want the people, each and every one of us, 7 billion of us on the planet, to come together, to sign up, to get your passport, to make your voice heard, so that the UN and each ambassador can hear what's what we want, and all politicians know that no sustainable ocean means we won't vote them back into power. If we won't vote them back into the power, then they're out. We'll find someone who will, to support the oceans. Thank you.
Thank you. Ghislaine, thank you. So if we want to become part of your ocean community, we just go to Terramar Project?
The terramarproject.org. I invite you all to come. I invite you all to sign. It's a pledge. There's no taxes, by the way. It's all free. And all you're signing is you love the ocean, that you will spread your love of the ocean because we're a digital platform, and that you want the ocean to be sustainably managed. And that is the message that we, the people, the owners of the ocean, the owners of our planet, one species, one home, one common destiny. That's the message we're bringing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey everyone, this is Derek Bros, the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to be talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who, as you guys know, was just arrested. She is Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman. She's been involved with him for decades, and I've covered much of her story in the past. We're going to recap some of that for those of you who might be hearing about her name for the first time. Some of you might be familiar with the name Jeffrey Epstein and less familiar with Ghislaine Maxwell. So we're going to go into all that. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, which is our website you're looking at right now. This is your home for all of our content that we've been creating for the last 8 years. Books, interviews, documentaries, essays, articles, all of it is right here for free. And if you want to follow us, you can do so on Minds, you can do so on Hive, You can join our Discord channel. You can sign up for our text list. You can also join us on Float, get our videos at BitChute or Library, and if you want to support, you can do so at patreon.com/DerekBros. And finally, if you want to get some Kratom or CBD, check out My Brave Botanicals. So I'm going to assume most of you have seen my documentary, Bringing Down Jeffrey Epstein. If you have not, I highly recommend pausing this video, or when this video is done, going and watching it, because it's only about a half hour long. We put it out October 2018, well before Jeffrey Epstein was in the mainstream. I myself have been researching Jeffrey Epstein since 2015. Others have been researching it, back in the mid-2000s when he was first exposed. And probably we know now that there are other people who were trying to blow the whistle well before them. So in this story, we cover the story of disgraced, alleged billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. And we also mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell, which was his partner in crime, who helped him connect to local teenage girls via a teenager named Haley Robeson. And Ghislaine Maxwell was also, along with two other women, Nada Marcinkova and Sarah Kellen, who have changed their names, that were Epstein's kind of private secretaries that helped him arrange the meetings with these young girls, who are now grown women now. And they also were often involved in the sexual abuse and in the sex acts that Epstein was doing. And after he was arrested in 2005 and 2008 and he was given a sweetheart deal, these women were part of the unnamed co-conspirators, which were allowed to go free. Because the whole travesty of Jeffrey Epstein's case is not just that he was given only 13 months in prison, or in jail, county jail, not even actual prison, where he was able to, leave whenever he wanted for just the vast majority of the day, but also that the unnamed co-conspirators, we know that Epstein was associated with everyone from Prince Andrew to Bill Clinton to Donald Trump to Bill Gates to all kinds of powerful people and influential people, actors and celebrities and things of that sort. And any of these unnamed co-conspirators, probably Leslie Wexner of Victoria's Secret, maybe Dershowitz, these people have all been accused in this. They were allowed to go free as part of the sweetheart deal. And that's been, I think, the biggest travesty. So Epstein was arrested last year and then he supposedly killed himself. And then the cases start getting shut down where the courts start allowing the co-conspirators to go free. In August 2019, I did this report zeroing in on Epstein's co-conspirators. And there's Ghislaine Maxwell right there. And I was basically talking about how we need to focus on them. And I talked about Ghislaine, but also, see right here, you see even the New York Times, the woman accused of helping Epstein. And then there was Jean-Luc Brunel, who was involved with Epstein and who is involved in the modeling world and has been accused of molesting girls and involved with the trafficking. So we've been covering this for a while now. And then I did this one. Ghislaine Maxwell is attempting to hide court records. And we broke down the latest news about that. And they're saying they're going to find her. They were hunting for her. Ghislaine Maxwell requests extension to argue against exposing hundreds of names in Epstein documents. And then we have this one, will the courts redact the Epstein files? Talking about a new development, an attempt to release all the files related to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And those files did include names, all kinds of names of people. But for the most part, the people who are really involved in this have been protected, and Ghislaine continues to deny that she was involved in any way. Then we bring it up to April 2020, and appeals courts refused to overturn Jeffrey Epstein's infamous sweetheart deal, which, as I said, allowed the co-conspirators like Ghislaine Maxwell to go for free and basically just not have to face any repercussions to their actions. And it's unfortunate, but that's where we're at. These co-conspirators have been allowed to go for free while Epstein is allegedly dead. And I did this video talking about that. Epstein and co-conspirators get away again. And this was as recently as April 2020. So now let's do a little bit of background on who she is. This is coming from an article I wrote July 2019. People think Epstein was a spy for an intelligence agency, and they might be right. And this is before he was killed himself. And we'll just do another search real quick and show you guys where Maxwell comes in. Now, this is the family that she is coming from. And for those who don't know this story, prepare to learn. Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the Mossad. It has been widely reported that Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend and secretary, Ghislaine Maxwell, was also his personal procurer of girls to satiate his daily need for masturbating in front of young girls. Maxwell is currently in the spotlight as a result of Epstein's arrest. What we know for certain is that numerous witnesses describe Maxwell as being integral to Epstein's ring operation. It is without a doubt she is one of the unnamed co-conspirators who were allowed to go free under the 2008 sweetheart deal, which allowed Epstein to serve a short 13-month sentence. Ghislaine Maxwell's involvement with Epstein is important because her father, Robert Maxwell, has long been suspected of being an undercover agent working for the Israeli Mossad, the national agency of Israel. Robert Maxwell was also a British media mogul, owning a majority share in Israel's second biggest newspaper and investing heavily in Israeli publishing. Not sure what the heck happened here. Looks like something got blacked out. I don't know, maybe that's a mistake, typo. It was reported that Maxwell had become close with Israeli leaders, particularly in the ruling Likud party, which if you understand Israeli politics in the Likud party, Christopher Boyan of 9/11 Truth Research has pointed at them as being involved in 9/11 and being a big part of the problem. So Maxwell, her father, was involved in that and again was connected to Israeli Mossad. In 1991, veteran investigative journalist Seymour Hersh released the book The Samson Option, which reported on Maxwell's close connections to Israeli intelligence. Hersh also claimed that Nicholas Davies, foreign editor of the Daily Mirror at the time, was involved in selling Israeli weapons to Iran and kidnapping a nuclear technician. Maxwell adamantly denied having any connection to the Mossad and sued Hersh and his publisher for libel. Hersh countersued, and a court battle began. Maxwell would die shortly afterwards in a yacht accident that some researchers still suspect was a hit job from an unknown party in response to Maxwell's newfound publicity. After Maxwell's death, Hersh said that, quote, he knew much more about him than he wrote. So again, Seymour Hersh, who's done lots of good work, he writes a book exposing Maxwell's connections to Israel. Lawsuits ensue. Maxwell goes out on his yacht, which was called the Lady Ghislaine after his daughter, and then he falls overboard. And, people claim, nah, he didn't just fall, he was killed. By August 1994, the New York Times reported that Seymour Hersh and his publisher won substantial damages and an apology as a result of the libel suit filed by Maxwell. In yesterday's proceedings, a lawyer for the Mirror Group, which was controlled by Mr. Maxwell before his death in November 91, said that it acknowledged Mr. Hersh as an author of excellent reputation and of the highest integrity who would never write anything which he did not believe to be true, and that he was in this instance fully justified in writing what he did. Pretty much just confirming that he didn't lie, he didn't make things up. Maxwell was involved with Israeli intelligence. And then there's a 2002 book called The Robert Maxwell, Israel's Super Spy, released by these researchers. The book claimed that Maxwell was actually a double agent for the Israeli Mossad in Britain, MI6, and also had connections to organized crime in Eastern Europe. And the Eastern Europe connection is interesting because the Eastern Europe connection comes up often with Epstein. In my documentary, again, these women that we were talking about, Nada Marcinkova and Sarah Kellen. Marcinkova, she was suspected of being a young girl that was kidnapped from Eastern Europe and brought to Epstein, and that he kind of helped raise her. See, one of the victims told police that she had been told Epstein purchased Marcinkova from her parents in Eastern Europe when she was 15. And there's also been Eastern Europe. I mean, obviously, look at Trump's wife as far as Eastern Europe goes. My point is that I think it's an easy way for these people to go over there, and there's probably poverty or maybe there's corruption that they can get away with just stealing or buying young girls. And so we see Maxwell also has a connection to the Eastern Europe. The authors also wrote that Maxwell had been murdered by the Israeli Mossad because he was apparently threatening to expose Israeli secrets. Now, to be clear, just because it appears Maxwell was involved in clandestine intelligence activities does not automatically indicate that his daughter, Ghislaine, was or is involved in similar actions. However, based on what we know from the testimony of Epstein's victims, Ghislaine was in fact a part of the sex ring operation, which reportedly involved filming sexual encounters between young girls in Epstein's high-profile circle. In court documents, the victims described being, quote, debriefed by Epstein after performing sexual acts. The victims claimed that Epstein wanted to know everything he could about the fetishes and desires of the men. This is reminiscent of the concept of a honeypot, where a law enforcement or intelligence agency will set a trap for would-be criminals. If Epstein is working for an intelligence agency under the direction of Ghislaine, the reports of sex rings, rape, and trafficking could be an effort to blackmail powerful people in all sectors and all industries. And I think most of us understand that's what's happening. So getting Ghislaine Maxwell, if she survives, and honestly I won't be surprised or shocked if she ends up dead, but you would think if that happened after such a high-profile case, people would ask questions. But I mean, it happened to Epstein, And all they did was just turn it into a meme. Epstein didn't kill himself. There's no congressional investigation, no real effort to find out the truth. People just kind of accept, okay, here's this high-profile billionaire connected to all these people who is involved in pedophilia and trafficking, and then he just gets killed, and that's it. Everybody's gonna be chill with that. Nobody's upset. I mean, it's crazy. So that's a little bit of background on who Ghislaine Maxwell is. Again, her father's coming from intelligence. She's been with Epstein since the very beginning. We're going to go through some photos now, and I think you guys might find some of these interesting to see who's all in these photos. Here's a photo of Donald Trump and his wife and Ghislaine Maxwell at a Halloween party. Here's Donald Trump, his wife, and sorry, it's a bad photo. And I think this is Naomi Campbell, the model, and then Ghislaine Maxwell right there. And then here's all these different photos. I'll show you some more with Trump, with Ghislaine, and of course the Epstein photos. People trying to claim that he has no connection to them. I mean, he's been around these people for decades. Here he is again with Ghislaine at some awards or modeling, probably a modeling thing. Here he is at some party with his wife, and Ghislaine's like right there hanging out. Here he is with his wife and Prince Andrew, and then Ghislaine Maxwell right there. Of course, here he is with the Epstein video, them partying together, laughing, staring at girls, with Ghislaine in the background right there. And here's another interesting one from a newspaper article, Roving Eyes and Dented Fords. And then it goes on, blah, blah, blah. This was the Ford model's 50th anniversary in Soho. Heiress Ghislaine Maxwell tries to get Donald Trump to focus on the conversation as models saunter by. And there they are, them together as well. So, numerous occasions of them being involved together, working together, collaborating together, having a history. Epstein, and I'm talking about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, but there's also clearly a history of Epstein and Trump knowing each other, and Epstein and Maxwell and Trump being involved. And there's also pictures of the Clintons. Ghislaine Maxwell was at Hillary's daughter Chelsea's wedding a few years back. So this isn't just a left or right, Republican, Democrat, Trump or Hillary thing. They're all connected to Epstein. I mean, Epstein was so involved with these people, and I've documented this over and over, guys. Like, I know some of you don't really want to hear this, but if you just go here and search Trump Epstein, you're going to get dozens of videos and articles and links that I've put together over the last couple of years. And these are not just, claims. These are documented facts, including my interview with Whitney Webb talking to Maria Farmer, who was one of the earliest Epstein victims to come forward, and she's naming names and talking about Trump being around there, and the Clintons and all these different people. My point is that there's clear evidence. If you're willing to look, don't be afraid to question your cult leaders. Don't be afraid to question Obama, Biden, Clinton, Trump, Bernie, any of these people. They're all criminals to varying degrees, and I'm not going to sit here and make apologies for them, and I wish and I hope and I pray that you guys won't make apologies for them, because these people really don't care about us. So it's important to stay focused here. We got to get the co-conspirators of Epstein. Hopefully they don't kill themselves. Hopefully the truth comes out, but I'm honestly not holding my breath. And this arrest, it should be scrutinized by everybody. People need to be looking at who Ghislaine Maxwell is. We need to make sure that Attorney General William Barr does not go visit her, as he did visit Epstein before Epstein killed himself. And we know that Barr's father has connection to Epstein. We know that Barr is basically a cleanup guy. And so if there isn't a connection between the Trumps and the Clintons with Maxwell and Epstein, somebody's going to be sent in to clean up the mess. You can believe that. And I don't think for 1 second this will make it to court after Ghislaine's been trying so hard to destroy any record of her involvement. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But for me, it's pretty clear that all these people swim in the same circles. They are the swamp. Nobody's draining the swamp. And no matter who you vote for in 2020, it doesn't make a difference. But please share this information if you found it helpful, valuable, so people can know who Ghislaine Maxwell is. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.